Hello and what is up, guys? Right here, and welcome back to some more automation and of course BeamNG Drive. In front of us is this 1930s coupe style body. Of course, it's a really old car. What we're doing is building a rat rod slash hot rod out of this body. So it's going to be a much newer car. The year is 2000. We're going to build a supercharged V8, a rear-wheel drive, basically a hot rod. It's going to be pretty crazy to drive in BeamNG because it's going to have a fair bit of power for rather small tires. So we're going to design this car, build it, drive it in BeamNG Drive, see how it drives. Let's get started. So panel material, steel to start off, because this still is an old car at the end of the day. It's still a 1930s car, very bare bones, very basic. Ladder chassis type, as was the norm. Steel chassis material. Now, of course, this car has been probably restored in some degree, so we could have galvanized steel or corrosion-resistant steel. We could have really anything, I guess, if it's fully restored. But we'll go for just basic steel. That's okay. Keep the costs down. Front-mounted, longitudinal, because what else would you really have with a car like this, to be honest? Let's go for a fancy suspension. Double wishbone front and rear, maybe. Something pretty fancy. Definitely more modern than the stock car would have had. But then again, when you're spending this much money on a car, IRL, swap with the suspension so it actually drives properly. Now, I'm conflicted here. We can either go for a 60-degree V8 or a 90-degree V8. Now, I'm thinking we'll go for a 90-degree V8. We could go for a push rod 90-degree V8. Yeah, I think push rod. Push rod, cast iron, 90-degree V8. That's a very American engine. Of course, this thing's going to be a rather large engine as well. We're going to go for what, like 7.4 liter, 7.5 liter, a 7.5 liter V8 supercharged. This thing is going to be definitely a little aggressive. Wait, did we make the... Let's actually go ahead and make the stroke a lot larger than the bore. Let's make this thing, if it doesn't rev, that's okay. If this car does not rev at all, that's totally fine. Let's give it 4-barrel carb. Let's give it just 8 barrels of carburetors. Let's give it 2 4-barrel carburetors, performance intake, regular fuel sounds fine, and we'll give it, what, like long tube headers, dual exhaust, and just nothing, because this thing is maybe a show car. It's going to be kind of cool looking. So we've got a lot of octane to go. Not really, actually. Let's lower the fuel mixture down as well, and lower the compression down to like 8 to 1. Sounds like a pretty reasonable amount. Lower the RPM down to 5,500. So right now, 305 horse, 345 torque, which is actually quite reasonable. That's actually quite good. For back in the day, obviously, with a newer engine, obviously it's a newer engine, you're going to have a lot more power. So we can go ahead and increase the, we'll give it premium fuel, and we'll increase the ignition timing just a bit more. 375 horsepower is pretty decent. Increase the cam profile to 50, 395 horsepower. And 8.4 to 1 compression ratio, so 400 horsepower, 450 torque, so it's not going to be an overstressed engine. It's basically a truck motor, or a very old classic car motor that's been rebuilt into this, obviously, pretty small vehicle. It's not a stock engine, obviously. Let's choose the coupe body, because it's the one we're using today. We can go for a truck or a roadster or something, but that's not as cool. We'll take the coupe today. Rear-wheel drive, manual, 5-speed, maybe a 4-speed swap. Now, we could, like, a lot of these vehicles actually have automatic transmissions, because, you know, a lot of older guys, they like to have autos in their rat rods. We'll go for a manual 5-speed, give it a pretty higher top speed, 200 kilometers an hour. Seems actually pretty terrifying. Let's give it short gearing, or rather short gearing. Open differential. You don't need that, you don't need that. Sports tires, though. You gotta flex the tires. And let's go for, like, 215s in the front, 275s in the rear. Alloy wheels, you gotta put some just disgustingly chrome, like 5-spoke muscle car alloys on this thing, because that's what guys do, right? Some big brakes though, give it a big brake kit. After all, you gotta have the big brake kit. Let's go for solid discs, 2 pistons, and then we'll go for 4 pistons up front. A little bit smaller though. The wheels! Oh, that's, oh god, that's big. Go like this. So we'll go for, what, 16-inch wheels, which is pretty large for a classic car. And just a pretty thick sidewall. We'll give it just a rather thick sidewall. We'll give it no aero, nothing. We'll give it interior, 2 seats, basic, and maybe basic cassette. Nah. You know what? Did we swap an aftermarket cassette player? You know what? It's the year 2000. I think cassette players are out of favor now. Let's go for no power steering, no ABS, no safety, and just like generic suspension setup. Just go for a sport tune by default. So by default, 0-60, 5.1 seconds. Which actually is pretty darn quick. Top speed, about 200 or so kilometers an hour. We'll go for a little higher, actually. 207. And like the gearing a little bit shorter. So 5.1 to 60. If we actually give it a LSD, we'll give it under 5 seconds. But this is fine as is. This car is going to be a slammed rat rod. It's going to be slammed. It's going to be camber. It's going to be just a cool car. So the cost 15 grand, which is so cheap. 0 comfort, 11 safety. Okay, that's actually better than I thought. Now safety is going to be at... Now we have 0 safety. That fits better. Now, 2,500 pounds is fine. We take those. Tires are going to be pretty okay. The brakes are definitely overbearing. Let's make them a bit smaller. Severe wheel spin issues. Okay, well, oh god, 58%. Yeah, I think that's probably fine. I think what we're going to do is design this car in a time lapse. We're going to go over to this car. We're going to slam it, make it really low. Make it look like a rad rod. It's going to be supercharged. Did I mention that, guys? This thing is going to be supercharged in BeamNG Drive. So we're going to build this car. 400 horsepower and automation is pretty good. Like, that's a fine number. It's okay. But we're going to supercharge this thing in BeamNG Drive using my Supercharger mod. So it's going to have a lot more than 400 horsepower. It's going to have, like, what, 600, 700 horsepower, which is going to be absolutely insane. Let's design this car in a time lapse, plop on that supercharger, and drive in BeamNG. So sit back, relax, guys, and, of course, I hope you enjoy. So we are starting the build for our rat rod slash hot rod style build. I'm just laying out the grill right now with some reverse dog tape, adding in a fake engine block that I'm going to modify slightly, adding our own push rod style or flathead style top of it, because the original engine is actually dual overhead cam, basically making a custom grill there, and adding the edges of our custom grill in the front, because it's got to look pretty cool, adding these vertical bars, these vertical slats that are pretty small, pretty skinny, but a lot of them. Now, what I want to do for this thing is, for the photos at least, have custom tires, custom wheels with a good bit of camber, which I do tinker with later on, so I do just have a solid axle going through the front end, and I slowly but surely change it to still a solid axle, obviously, but not sticking out of the actual size of the vehicle. I had our own trunk on the back here. Very simple, just 6 taillights on the back. We got some turn signals as well. Adding our door handles and our massive stacks on the side for our exhaust. The vehicle is obviously already slammed, etc. We got these giant back tires, giant front tires. I am slowly tinkering with the name just a little bit, but aside against it. Playing around with our custom exhaust piping that we're adding in, and just seeing how the wheels line up, making our own custom. We've got our hubcaps ready. We're making our own front suspension now, and it's going to be similar to a lot of actual rat rod slash hot rod style vehicles. And just adding some more things to the suspension here or there. Trying to think of a name at this current time. I'm not too sure what I'll call it while I'm still making this. And the suspension's pretty much finished up, adding a vent on the side, adding some more details to the top of the engine now. Looks pretty picture perfect. We have a name finally. We've got the Magica Coupe badging on there, and adding a Maven emblem on the front of the vehicle. Obviously, this is a Maven branded vehicle, the Maven Magica. I am playing with the colors now, adding our own rust fixtures to make it look pretty rusty. This thing's going to be in between sort of a rat rod and a hot rod. Probably a little bit more on the rat rod side of things, especially with its crazy camber, and definitely not, you know, usual kind of design. I have white for now, adding some rust all over the vehicle, adding rust patches, rust lines on the hard edges of the vehicle, etc. And basically just tinkering with it, making sure the vehicle looks period correct. I'm adding a big rust patch on the side here, which takes a while. There's not too much rust pieces really with the rust fixture mod pack, but there's enough for me to definitely look pretty creative, I feel like. The roof is still a black cloth. We're going to change it on later to a black paint, I think, or an even darker cloth, because it's right now it's like a blackish blue. Adding more rust on the top of the vehicle, on the sides, on the front. And like the rust takes honestly like almost all the time for the entire vehicle design. I will add an interior though, a very basic interior with basically nothing in it, but just enough so you can see it from the outside. Adding some just, you know, quick bullet holes with some rust leaking out of them, because they look pretty cool. I feel like it fits nicely. Just on one side though, the other side is not going to have any bullet holes. I'm taking my time here to think of what I want to do for the inside, while continuing to add more rust. Again, changing the roof to black now, changing it to a nice green color, finishing off with a little bit more rust here and there, and changing the exhaust pipe, adding some more details to our stacks on the side. And just starting the interior, adding this big old bench in the front. This is just going to be a 2-seater bench up front. We got a big old steering wheel. We're going to add a really simple dash that doesn't look perfect, but it fits fine. We got some gauge, some simple gauges. We're not adding any pedals for this one. Just going to add a floor pan and a back cover area, playing with our camera just a little bit. And it finished in front of us is the 1930 Maven Magica Coupe Resto mod. So finally, guys, like I said, the 1930s, the 2000s, but it's a hot rod. Our Maven Magica Coupe is finally done. This is the final finished product here. It's pretty slammed, honestly. It's pretty dang low. The back tires actually go through the body itself, which is okay. These tires aren't actually functional. They are actually fixtures, multiple fixtures just placed. We've got tire fixtures. As you can see here, the tires, and I've got some other fixtures here to make it look like we have dog ditch hubcaps. They are some massive hubcaps, by the way, in the back. These are some massive wheels. We got bullet holes here. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. Just looks really cool. We got our massive engine in here, even though it's actually a dual overhead cam engine. It's not push rod. It looks kind of like a push rod engine, kind of. I know it's not perfect. There is no push rod V8 engine fixture yet. The actual engine is way down in there. You can sort of see it turning off and on. So it's way down in there and way, way, way smaller. That's okay. So we've got the interior of our Magica Coupe. We got the very terrible interior, which is just sort of a bare bones interior. We've got our skull shifter. We got our steering wheel. We got our gauges and our seat. That's really all we actually need. Our massive stacks here. But yeah, look at this thing. Overall, a lot of fun to make this thing. It's just kind of cool. It looks great in photos. It's not like the best, you know, for style because it doesn't actually function. But we are going to make this thing function for BeamNG Drive. So what we're going to do, or what I've actually already done, is went ahead and made two versions. We have the Magica Coupe and the Magica Coupe S, just because whatever. The Hot Rod S, because this is the BeamNG version. You can see it's loading here very slowly. The BeamNG version actually has proper wheels. So this is the BeamNG version. It's going to be properly working. The wheels still go through, but they actually work fine. The wheels don't look nearly as good, but that doesn't matter. That's okay. This thing is not about style. It's not about... And no, it is about style. It's about being absolutely crazy. So what we're going to do is take this one. This is the BeamNG version. We're actually going to supercharge this thing using my Supercharger mod. I'll have a link down in the description of the video on how to use superchargers in BeamNG. We'll supercharge this thing in BeamNG Drive. Drive it. I think we'll get a 0 to 60 test, probably a drag race. And maybe take it for a little bit of a track drive to see how this thing handles on the track. It's probably not going to be good, seeing as it's got pretty small front tires. The front tires are 155s in the front, which is, yeah, that's small. And there's also camber on it to look kind of cool still. It's still got 3 degrees of camber, or negative camber, because it looks kind of cool. It's not the most functional car in BeamNG. It drives, though. It's like a good cruiser. Then we got the Magical badge. We got lots of rust over everywhere. I'll have a link again, guys, down below to download this car if you guys want to download it. Oh, the link will be for, I'll leave a link for the automation version. So the one with all the fixtures, and it looks kind of cool for your photos and stuff. So if you want to take a photo-esque version of the Magica Coupe, then that's all for you guys. There you go. So we got this version right here. This is the one you'll get. We got our custom front suspension, our front, you know, steering rack, etc. That would sort of work, but probably not. That's okay. Got our exhaust pipe going to the stacks over here. Lots of rust, honestly, which looks really cool. So all that's left to do is hop into BeamNG Drive and see how this thing actually drives. So see you guys there in just a sec. And finally, we are here in BeamNG Drive with the Magica Coupe. Now, this is the BeamNG version, obviously, with the proper, you know, automation BeamNG tires. The chassis is still there. That's okay. This thing is about performance today. How good is it actually in BeamNG Drive? So, I was talking about a supercharger earlier. This thing is going to be supercharged, but before we supercharge it or turn the supercharger on, we're going to do a 0 to 60 test and a quarter-mile test with a naturally aspirated 7.5 liter V8 version. It's got 400 or so horsepower, 500 whatever newton meter torque, so it's like 400 something pound-feet of torque, I think. It's got a lot of torque, a lot of horsepower. Let's do the quarter mile, let's do the 0 to 60 and see what it can actually do. We're gonna flat foot it. Just drop the clutch completely. 0 to 60 stock in 3.5 or so seconds, which is very quick. And the quarter mile is a pretty decent, pretty not bad. 11.4 seconds, so stock, it's a lot faster than automation led us to believe. We did change the gearing. That's all we actually changed. The gearing is much longer now. Instead of third gear taking us to 100 kilometers an hour or 62 miles an hour, now second gear does that for us instead. So the gearing has been shortened by, or has been lengthened by quite a bit, because I was just finding it just was not pleasant to drive at all, constantly shifting. Let's hop in, and let's just go free roam here, actually. Restart the car. And do the drag strip. We're going to change the drag strip with our own version of the Magica Coupe. So what we've got on the left-hand side is the Magica Coupe. This is the non-supercharged version. And on our side, we are going to supercharge our own Magica Coupe. We're just going to go head-to-head against the non-supercharged versus the supercharged version. We can't do the actual time trial test with the supercharger on, because we have to change the actual configuration of the car. So let's go add supercharger just like that. And again, guys, I'll have a link down below on how to add your own superchargers to your automation cars. we can go like this. We can just actually just tune the supercharger and have tons of power and different gear ratios. It's going to sound pretty cool too. Let's actually line up to the thing, to the starting line. And it's going to have a lot more power, about 1,600 horsepower, so definitely a lot more versus the 400. Same gearing though. 2.8 seconds, that'd be scary fast, man. I short shifted there a little bit. So, the quarter mile in a pretty brisk 10.1 seconds, which is a lot faster than the 12.1 that the non-supercharged version got, and I got about 11.5, so about a second and a half, maybe faster. We did butcher gear shift there. 160 miles an hour versus 115. So that's a very, very good trap speed, I think. I wonder what actual supercars are for their trap speeds, like a Porsche 911 Turbo, etc. I'll actually look them up real quick, because that's interesting. What are the trap speeds of, like, a McLaren, a Porsche, Lamborghini, etc.? Because 160 seems pretty dang good. So yeah, I can confirm that our Magica Coupe with the supercharger does a faster quarter mile than something like a Porsche 911 Turbo S or McLaren 720S. Those things have a trap speed around 130, 140, 150 miles an hour, whereas the Magica could do 160 miles an hour, which is faster than, from what I could find, pretty much any production car ever, which is absolutely insane. Let's hop in to the automation test track and drive it around. Okay. So we're in the automation test track now. We can't go ahead and use the actual time trial because we are using the supercharger mod. So we're just going to go for a bit of a cruise and see how this thing handles on the track. There's no barriers, obviously. We got our timer on the top left just for fun. Let's just launched, I guess, yeah. So 1,600 or so horsepower. It's just not even drivable how stupid this thing is. With an LSD, it'd actually be pretty cool. Does not break. Okay, note to self, does not break. One wheel peel is a real thing, apparently. It is, actually. Can't confirm. It's pretty unbalanced, too. There's quite a bit of body roll. The rear left tire is lifting off the ground a bit when we're turning here, which is not good for traction at all. I think longer gearing might have been a good idea, but that's okay. Can we turn? Oh, God. There's our chassis sticking through. You know what? It handles pretty terribly, but it looks pretty cool. My God, is this thing terrible to drive. But the exhaust is actually not... Yeah, the exhaust is actually coming out of, like, the pipes down here, I think. Yeah, I think our exhaust pipes are not connected to the car at all, which, you know what? We take those. We take those. That's fine. This is a... Oh, gosh. Very eco-friendly car, obviously. It looks really cool, though. So first person here. Look at that nice chrome supercharger. Oh, God. The slow down force. Oh, God. Oh, supercharger's gone. Where'd it go? Oh, yes, the engine. Actually, it doesn't look that bad. The car looks pretty fine, honestly. But I think there's something wrong with it. Yeah, it turns to the right a little bit. There's a supercharger. See you later. Listen to that supercharger. Does not sound healthy. Yeah, this car does not drive well. Let's take it to the jump arena. Let's jump the Magica Coupe. And we'll finish off there. Again, guys, you can download this link in the description. Looks pretty cool. It's definitely a funner build. We'll hop into the jump arena and see how far it jumps. Lastly, we are in the jump arena here. We're going to jump off the jump arena with our car jumping off the jump arena. Jump arena. Oh, God. Okay, let's just jump the car. This is the non-supercharged version, but let's just quickly, again, convert it to supercharged version. We just go here. Oh, no. No. There we go. No. There. Put in the supercharger. Easy as that. Go to the tuning here and just crank it up to max because we want it to sound pretty cool and drive pretty cool. And just launch it. I'm hoping for some good air, but we're not going to get probably any good air because this thing is pretty not aerodynamic. It's basically a brick on wheels here. So 310 kilometers an hour, almost 200 miles an hour. Pretty good. But yeah, pretty disappointing jump. The whole bottom is actually squished. Let's just grab it here. Yeah, it looks pretty squished. We take that. Now, there's an interior as well, obviously. Let's quickly take a look inside. We got our shifter. It looks very basic. What is this? What is this? That's rust. Oh gosh. Oh gosh, that's fine. But it looks fine. The car overall looks pretty good. Drives pretty good in BeamNG. It sounds very cool. Before we finish off this video, I just want to give a quick shout out to our Quad Turbo members. Thank you so much to Ruben, DD-Man, JN Shalison for you guys' continuing support and everyone's support regardless if you are a channel member or not. Your guys' support means the absolute world to me, and thank you guys so much for staying here and sticking up to the end of the video. Join the Discord linked in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.